So we all can hear because I have these kids screaming.
Okay, that's okay with us. I think basically what we wanted to find out from first is I hope you guys will all see how the Dohiki's assignment is coming up. Um, and I hope each and everyone is inputting few things. We basically have about 2 pages now. Couple of it, yeah. Yeah. Hello, did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Damn it.
I did hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Yes,
hear you.
Okay,
I
so
heard you.
I was talking about the Doiki's assignment. How is it coming up?
I think it's going well.
Okay, I think we know that this assignment we need to submit it by, right?
Yeah, by Saturday, right?
I think it's Monday morning.
Oh,
Monday.
And it's getting better.
Yes, I can see. I've seen that we have already started to make some corrections with the APA format, and then there are some few problems that we have there. So probably before the end of the week, we need to agree which problems that we are going to stick to them, and then which solutions that we'll be presenting. But let's get going. Let's get going because I'm a little bit nervous. This is my first time to host live. Nervous. I hope I'll be able to do it.
You've got it.
So we know that we have about an hour to do our discussion, and then we have a couple of questions that we have to go through. Is there anyone who has not been able to go through the readings so far?
No, I've done the reading.
You've done it. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
that's on the sexual harassment and then the Costa's dilemma situation.
Mm-hmm.
So before we start, uh, I would like, and this how we'll go about our discussion for the day, so that we'll be able to maintain order. Uh, Please forgive me if I don't pronounce the names well. You'll be our number one, and then Jessica, you'll be our number two, and then probably Marilla, you can be coming in as and when you'll be our number three. And so if we ask a question, I'll go. I will start with
what
number
did you say about
one.
me? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. What did you say about me?
I'm going to give numbers so that we'll be able to have an orderly conversation.
Okay.
And so what I'm saying is that we are giving Sister Caroline number one, Jessica number two, and then you number three. And so when I ask a question, I'll say, okay, let's start from number one, after that number two, after the number three, so that you know who is speaking at what time.
Sounds good.
Okay, so on sexual harassment, we know we're going to spend about 15 minutes to discuss that. Um, let's start from number one. Will you help us to understand some background on sexual harassment laws?
Are you asking me? I'm sorry, you're asking me to do something?
Yes, I'm asking you to share with us
Oh, okay.
how or your a little background on sexual harassment.
My background or like what we read this week?
Yeah, what we read this week, a little background on sexual harassment.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, well, the first document that we read was just like the laws that came from the Harvard Business School, and it talked a lot about like the federal laws and the state laws and how they work together and are different, I guess. But basically, the sexual harassment is any harassment of any person that anything that makes another person feel uncomfortable. I'm sorry, I'm looking for the exact wording in the document. It says the definition of sexual harassment: early laws on sexual harassment centered on workplace situations involving unwelcome sexual advances. Courts generally regard advances as unwelcome when they are unsolicited, when the victim has done nothing to incite them, and when the victim views them as undesirable. So I guess that's a good description of what someone could claim to be sexual harassment.
And we know that with the state laws and federal laws, we know that the federal law came in existence in the Act 1964. And so, Jessica, number 2, what is sexual harassment? Can you try to give a good definition?
So sexual harassment is, just on my own definition of what I understood, is causing harassment to a member of a sex. I think it doesn't depend in the U.S. I know that it depends, on Japan and stuff, but in the U.S., from what I understood, it's anybody can claim anything. Like, so men and men, women and women, and then men and women, that they're being harassed because of their sex.
That's a very wonderful definition. I think Bartholomew is also on the line now. Bartholomew, you are welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're trying to have a very good conversation in an orderly manner, and then we've already given numbers, so that when we mention a number, it's going to be easy for the person to come in and speak. And so, since you are just in, you are number 4.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so Jessica just shared with us some of the definition of sexual harassment, and yes, it's true, because basically when I was reading this week's assignment, I was asking myself, can men actually also claim sexual harassment from probably female colleagues at work or something like that? And so Bartholomew, can you also share with us your own understanding or a little bit definition about sexual harassment?
Yeah, I think what I would say is the urge that someone will move towards another person, whether it can be the opposite sex or the same sex, in terms of sexual advances. So probably when somebody just engage in a conversation with the opposite or the same sex in a way that he try to take full advantage of that person, maybe because of his superior position, that becomes a sexual harassment. And it's something that is very common, but in our part of the world, Ghana, for instance, people don't have the courage to report those cases, but it happens all the time in the workplaces. I recently had a female friend who has to stop her work because of the boss has been harassing her all the time, and she can't even go and report. So the best thing she has to do is to quit her job. And I've heard several stories about that. So it's something that is very common. But I'm grateful that in the US like this, it's something that is very common, that people can even go ahead and report some of those cases. Even just within this week, I read a whole lot of reports from the Hollywood where somebody is harassing most of the female actresses, and I think it is something that is very common.
Thanks so much. Please, when you are not speaking, we'll beg you so that you can just mute your mic so it doesn't distract others. Okay, Marilyn, are you around? Okay, I think she's not. Okay, now,
What was that? I'm sorry. Say it again.
okay. What I was asking you is if you can also share with us your own understanding or definition of sexual harassment.
Yes. You know what? I hope you guys can hear me over the baby crying. I only read, like I said, I didn't really have time. Since I'm having some issues right now, personal issues, I didn't have time to read or study a ton. I only listened to, I think it was Elder Health. Was it the first video about how the world thinks, or how the world thinks or acts like so naturally about the way how um, people can act with each other, and how inappropriate and um, what those actions can bring to us, and how we see other people. Like, most likely is what I got out of it. And obviously, like, I know that my harassment, if I'm being harassed, I'm gonna be pretty uncomfortable with someone. Like, it's gonna be make me uncomfortable.
Sure. It's not something based on mutual agreement. Okay.
Correct.
Correct. So, based on Martin's story, those of us that we read, that her situation constitutes, and if yes, kindly explain to us so that we will understand your own understanding on the situation surrounding Martin's story. And so we'll start from number 1, then number 2, and then number 3, number 4. If Martin's story does constitute sexual harassment, and then if yes, kindly explain to us how you understand it in your own way.
Corey, if you're talking to us, you're muted.
We can't hear you, Karen, unless you unmute your mic.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry. That screen got minimized. So I forgot that I muted it. So you're talking about the Lone Star case, right? Where the I guess it's the assistant is being harassed by her boss. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, Martins.
Okay. Yeah. I can't remember what her name was, but so in this case, I think absolutely that she was being sexually harassed by her boss, and was put in a situation which I feel that tends to be the situation that most people who are being harassed in a workplace are put in. Is it's usually a subordinate who's being harassed by someone who is over them, which puts them in a situation where they're not sure how to deal with it without getting themselves or someone else in trouble.
Good. That's very good. Okay. Number 2.
Yeah, I agree with you, Corey. I think it was hard for the boss to overhear it, because, like he said, he was kind of embarrassed that he was like eavesdropping. But I also think it's important that it gets taken care of, because nobody wants to work in an environment where they're put upon like that and they feel uncomfortable and unsafe. So I think it's important for her to have it reported, even if it requires, because I mean, to be honest with you, if I was getting sexually harassed like that, even if I got fired from the company, I'd almost prefer that.
Exactly. And just as there was a point he said that when he went to the office, the boss put the right hand in her dress and then told her that if she screams, she's going to deny it. It looks like sometimes others have, for example, Martin, she was discussing it on the phone with her friend, but probably she has the fear of discussing with any other colleague, somebody there, or reporting it because of either the fear of loss, or just as she said, she doesn't know how the husband is also going to take the situation, if she should tell him about it and stuff like that. So basically, her case was actually about sexual harassment. Bartholomew, what's your take on that? Bartholomew, can you unmute your mic and speak to us?
Hello. Yeah. So I think it's
Okay.
with a case, it's a clear sexual harassment since he tried to engage in a situation that that even if he's going to tell other people about it, people might say maybe this might not be probably true. But in the case, looking at her actions towards her, his action towards her is actually a clear position of being sexually harassing her. So I think, but I am afraid why she didn't have that courage to report, but rather than talking to the friend on the phone.
Is that a question to all of us?
Yeah, I just I don't know why she couldn't report this thing. Is it a fear that maybe she might lose her job, or other people might say probably it's not true? Or
Yeah, I definitely think it probably is based on fear. I think people worry about how others will look at them, that maybe they brought it upon themselves. And I also think that a lot of people don't understand what their rights are, and that if they report it, that they can't be fired. Like, I don't think that that's made clear to most people, that, if they report it, that it's not going to be held against them by their boss. And I think that there's also the stipulation of, yeah, they can't hold it against you. You can't lose your job for it. But that doesn't mean that your work environment is going to be a positive place to be, because everyone knows that this happened, and the boss will know that you're the one who reported it. So it becomes kind of an uncomfortable situation, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you.
okay.
But then the question here is like, do you think probably it was an exchange of favor, or it was an advantage granted in return for something? Because yes, just as she said, she doesn't want to lose a job. Is the advances the boss taking, was it in an advantage of something, for exchange of something or something? I don't know if you understand my question.
Are you asking if you thought it was like a prig pro quo kind of a situation, where if you don't do this, then you're going to get fired? Is that what you're kind of asking?
Exactly.
I don't think it was that kind of a situation. I think that he was just taking advantage of her.
Oh, okay. That's really true. He was just taking that advantage. Just that just last week I met a friend of mine. She's actually from Nigeria, and then she used to be my staff when I was doing a business with one member, but then the business collapsed, so everybody was laid off. And then I met her, and I was asking her if she had gotten any job after the collapse of the company, and she goes like she had a job, but the manager in the company is trying to take advances of her, and so she has to stop. And in my mind, she feels so comfortable telling me. In my mind, I was asking myself, just as I read, why couldn't her speak to probably other authorities in the company or something like that? What do you think that brings this fear of either losing one's employment, or what do you think sometimes it causes the victims to just keep mute about these situations?
Yeah. Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Bartholomew.
I think one thing that I've seen is that people, one, they wanted to keep their job because of job insecurity. They wanted to maintain their job. So reporting the issue become a problem to them. Secondly, like in our part of the world, when you go out and talk about this issue, people doesn't take you serious. You know, people may make a lot of comments about the issue, but and nobody is going to take up the issue and challenge that issue in a court. So we don't have the right laws that protect our female workers in this country, especially the female workers that endure some of these things here in Ghana. It's not easy that you know, you hear that this person, this boss has done this, and because of that, you know, the court decided to fine him. Have you heard any case in Ghana like this before? I mean, it is not easy. So people find it because if nobody is going to assist you to be able to, you know, get this person in order, then why is the need for me to talk about it? I just have to keep it mute. And it actually hurts the people. They don't feel comfortable going to work. You know, anytime they go to work, they have that kind of, they go through that kind of psychological trauma all the time, because they know that if maybe the boss might invite her to the office, something is going to happen. And that kind of trauma will still be in them. So I think if one thing that laws and law enforcement about this issue should be very important wherever it is, that people should know that in as much somebody is working for you, you need not to make any sexual advances towards that person. In a work environment, that kind of behavior is not accepted. Even not only in the work environment, you need not to make any sexual advances towards somebody that you are not married to.
Exactly, very, very true. Now, the question now comes as this, and this one I'm asking Jessica. Jessica, do you think that the Costa got accurate advice when he called the council's office?
I'm so sorry. Could you repeat that one more time?
Do you think that the Costa got accurate advice when he called the council's office?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard because, you know, I mean, this supervisor, or, you know, this boss, he's dealing with, you know, the merging of two companies. And so it's hard to know exactly what the you know, the clear definition is. And so I think that he did the right thing in the beginning by calling the office and talking with the lawyer. Unfortunately, I do think there is sometimes a disconnect between the law and the taking into consideration the feelings of other people. So of course the law is that he needed to report it to the, what is it, the EOC, the EOCC. And, you know, and because that saves the company and that keeps it so that they don't get sued. But then again, I mean, Julia, she's having lots of problems. And like Corey was saying, I mean, if she reports this, everybody in the workplace knows. And whether they agree with her or disagree with her, you know, they're going to treat her differently, or probably going to treat her differently. And then on top of that, she talks about how she's afraid that her husband will take it into his own hands. And unfortunately, in this world, there are some people with some very violent tendencies. And I mean, it is a real possibility that her husband could go and could, you know, get into some serious legal trouble himself if he takes it into his own hands. And so all of this together makes it a really hard situation for Julia, because she's either stuck being judged by everybody in the office, or stuck with having to deal with this horrible treatment.
Exactly. And it's really hard, you know. Corinne, what is your take on that? Do you feel that he got the right advice when he called the EO's office?
I think that he for sure got the right legal advice, and that's what the the legal office is going to give him is. I mean, that's what the law is that if you know something, you have to report it. That's because the company can be held liable for anything that they know about that they don't disclose. But I also agree with Jessica and where she's coming from, which I think is a lot of the reason why. I mean, that's why there are HR departments. That's why companies have HR, because that it's someone in between the situation and the legal, counsel, that it's someone that you can take this information to, and they put all the pieces together and they deal with all of these pieces. And it's a big job. It's a lot to do, but it's a job where the person who is in the position of being the HR management, they need to be someone that the employees feel that they can come to and be able to express these things with, and to know that when they bring this stuff to them, that it'll be handled in the best possible way.
Very true. Marilla, what was your take on that? If you are with us. Okay. So just as she said.
Sorry, I didn't read that much. I'm really sorry. That's what I said.
Okay.
I just
that's okay. That's okay. So if I ask any question and then you have something to say, you can say it. If you don't have anything because you didn't have the opportunity to read it, just let us know. We are working together. Now this the Costas issue is really going into place. And then Bartholomew, I want to ask you, at this point, how do you evaluate Jack Da Costa's option at this point? What do you think that he should do? Did you hear my question?
For me, at this point, yeah, I hear your question. For me, at this point, I think he should file a suit. At this point, I thought that you should file a lawsuit against this thing. Because if you file a lawsuit, then since the company is not actually in a position, because looking at how they are turning around with the case, since the company is not in a position to be able to hold the corporate reliable for the social advances, if you file a lawsuit, and maybe the court will be able to determine the case, and if there is any damages that he can win, if he got those damages, then he can decide whether to quit the job or not.
Karen, what do you think?
Well, I found it interesting. They didn't really talk much about whether there was an HR department, because quite honestly, I think that's the step. I don't think it's necessarily his responsibility to be filing anything, but he needs to be reporting it to whatever the next, whoever it is that is responsible for those kind of situations in their workplace, which I don't remember it saying clearly where that would be. I think they said that he needed to go to the EEOC. Is that what they said? Sure. But I definitely think it's something that needs to be reported, because like they said in the scenario, if he doesn't say something, it can come back at him that he knew this and didn't report it. He could be held just as responsible as the guy who actually was doing it, if he doesn't actually say something that he knows that it was happening.
Jessica, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I agree. It's a tough situation. I like Corey's idea almost of if there is an HR representative with in the building, even go to him, talk to him about it. The thing that I'm kind of curious about, though, as they said that they'd come back to it at the end of the day. So I'm just curious in my own head. I'm thinking, if he doesn't report it right now and he waits until the end of the day, would the company still be liable? And I would think that he would be. And I don't know. It's just a hard situation. Like, I agree that the company, or that just for his own safety, that I think, what's his name? but I think the boss needs to go ahead and report it, you know, and then maybe the EOCC can kind of help by keeping it a low-key investigation, you know, and not having a rise out of it or anything like that. But another thing that was mentioned is that there's a possibility that this guy, this Ron guy, he could be doing the same thing to other women within the workplace, you know. And so if that's the case, if he's doing it for multiple, I mean, I would assume and I would hope that he would be fired or transferred or something. And then all of these women would be able to have that burden taking off of them. So maybe it's a really good thing. And Julia is just looking at it from her perspective and is just really worried about it.
But if she's going because the issue is to show her, but it's all boils up if there's, and then take it up and said, okay, because there are information or there's a proof that you can't be fired because of retaliation because you've reported this case. What proof do you think we can help her to see that this is actually the proof, and so we can be able to go about it and give it a report? Some of the legal laws that we learn from the sexual harassment. If you understand what I said.
Sorry, your mic is cutting out a little bit. I'm not sure if there was a question in there. Joseph, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Bartholomew, your mic is mute, and so if you are speaking, you have to unmute your mic before we can hear you. I'm not sure he's on the line.
Joseph, what was the question you asked us?
So, do you feel that anything prevents boss from fire? Probably if she go ahead and do you feel there's anything to prevent, or does anything prevent her boss from firing her for some other reasons? Probably just after she has reported that the boss is having, you know, those sexual advances, taking those sexual advances over her.
Sorry, are you asking, can she be fired for reporting this?
Yes.
She can't be fired for reporting this, but I think you're kind of saying, can he find other reasons to fire her if she does report? Is that kind of what you're asking? Will he find other things that she's doing that he could? Yeah, I'm sure he can, and I'm sure that would cause fear also, because anyone would stop and think about, okay, well, what am I doing? What is he not like? Oh, he doesn't like that maybe I don't don't get things to him in a timely manner, or sometimes I leave early for lunch, or things like that. That you'd have to be very, very careful of every other thing that you do, because you knew that they're going to be looking for a reason to let you go.
Yeah, that might be true. I almost wonder if there is some protections that go along with it, though, even afterwards, because I think that there's like a understanding that Sorry, Joseph, your mic is cutting out. We can't understand what you're saying.
Go ahead, just a mic.
Okay, so Sorry. But anyway, so I wonder if there is some sort of a right. And I would think that if she was fired within the next, I don't know, year or so, that there would be like a full investigation, and she could probably take it to court and claim that, you know, it was sexual harassment or sexual discrimination is what I wanted, you know, is what I wonder.
I work
because the
with
next
the mom of the moms of the kids that
filing him prevent her from ever being fired.
Can I say something,
Hello.
Joseph?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, I was going to say the mother of the children,
Maria, will
she is a human resource manager, and she was telling me that when these type of cases happen, it's a long process because she usually does investigate. She investigates the cases, and then they give you a warning. After the warning, and if they have any other proofs after you were warned of what you did, and then they can act upon of what they already told you not to do. So they cannot fire you at the first, you know, even though if they don't have proofs of something of what you're being accused, you have to go through a process of investigation. And after the warn they gave you, and if you didn't listen, or even though you are in a different branch, in a different company, and then you're gonna get fired. That was it.
okay, that's cool. The line break, but I think I heard what you said. But then the thing is this: if and this question I'm asking Karen, if we think that the Costa should report to the EO office, specifically, what will you report?
If I were
So,
sorry,
John Da Costa?
if I was the man DaCosta, is that what you're asking me? If I was him, what would I report?
Yes.
I think that
Sure.
I think that the report just needs to be a straightforward, like what he overheard. That he needs to let them know there's, you know, I mean, someone in the office who is being sexually harassed, feels uncomfortable with the situation, doesn't know what to do. You know, I mean, the whole thing, but that maybe it needs to be kept at a quiet level while it's being dealt with and handled because of fear of others outside of the office and how they might deal with the situation. Maybe it could be handled in a way that, not that her husband doesn't find out about it necessarily, but that it's being dealt with long before it needs to be brought to the surface of everyone knowing, so that maybe it can be handled in a more discreet way in which she doesn't have the fears of his reactions.
Exactly. Jessica, if you're the lawyer and then Karen has come to you reporting such case to you in this manner, what question or what will we say or what will you ask her?
I would ask him, like, if he had ever noticed any suspicious behavior from this guy who's doing the sexual harassing. I think his name's Ron, isn't that right? And I would also ask him if anybody else had come forward. I would ask him how much they are alone, like if they have to work on a project together or something like that. And just like general, you know, overview, like what have you seen, what have you heard, you know what I mean? And yeah, and that sort of questions, I think.
Okay, that's cool. Moving on to the next part of our conversation or discussion. That's the part 3 part of it. We're going to discuss sexual harassment policies and then procedures. To have each role, we have the potential victim of harassment, we have accused harasser, we have the bystander, and then the legal counsel. What will you consider or what will you want to include in a company's sexual harassment policy. And so probably, Karen, you can share with us what you want to consider that is needed to be included in a company's sexual harassment. After your thoughts, Jessica can also take the next one and also share with us what she feels needs to be included. And if Marilla or Bartholomew, any one of them is also available, can also share with us what she also feels that need to be included. So Jessica.
Did you want me to go first? I'm sorry, this is Corinne.
Yes, please. Oh, Corinne. Sorry.
That's all right. So you're asking what should be included in a sexual harassment policy in a workplace?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I think that I think that one of the important things, I mean, I think you just need to start at the beginning about what sexual harassment is and what is considered to be sexual harassment, so that everyone is aware from the get-go what is and isn't appropriate activities to be taking place in an office. And then it needs to include what the steps are for dealing with such situations and how it will be handled, so that, yet again, everyone is aware that if they are making choices to do things that are against the policy, what the consequences of such things would be.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that is a great way to put it out there. I don't really have anything to add to that, but I also, something just came to my mind, maybe what would be a good benefit for the company is to install video cameras periodically throughout the office. Because if they have these video cameras, it talks about sexual harassment sometimes is hard to get into case because there's a he said, she said type of conflict that goes on. But if there's physical proof, if he emailed her something, then it's a lot easier. So to save the company, some of that, dealing with that, legals, all that stuff, maybe it would be beneficial for them to install a camera, say in the elevator or or in the break room or places like that.
Yes, that's actually a good idea and a good suggestion. Is anyone also there, Bartholomew or Maria? I'm not sure Marilla or Bartholomew is online, and so
Hello.
okay.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Bartholomew, yes, we can
Joseph,
hear
can you
you.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Also,
so,
hold on first.
all right.
Karen,
So what I'm saying is that
it's raining here in Ghana, and I think that's the reason why we're having on and on from Bartholomew. It's actually raining here so heavily here in Ghana, and so bear with us with the network, the quality of network.
So hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Joseph, can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead, loud and clear.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that I think the internal process for the policy, the internal procedure for helping people know that, okay, when you have any kind of sexual harassment, this is what you should do. So the internal process have to be streamlined in such a way that people know that this is a clear-cut policy about sexual harassment in the workplace. So that if I have some kind of cases, I know who first I need to address that issue to. And if I address my case to that person and the person was not able to handle the issue, what is the next step that I need to take? If we have a clear-cut policy regarding this kind of sexual harassment, in an office place, it will become a lot easier for people to be able to go and report some of those cases that people make some kind of sexual advancement towards them. So we have to streamline the process on reporting some of these issues. And secondly, if somebody reported this, the offender, what kind of punishment that the offender gets? We need to also, if there is no state laws that will be violated, there should be some kind of plan that will tackle that person. Okay, is it possible that if this person is working under my department and I'm making a social advances towards that person, do I need to, if I be reported, will I still hold my position, or because of the social advancement that I've caused towards that person, maybe my position will be taken out from me? If people get to know some of these things, I think it will become a little easier for them to be able to deal with some of these issues.
Very, very beautiful contribution, just as Karen and Jessica have always been doing. In fact, the situation has always been T1 based on not much evidence that we have from Da Costa, showing a proof of evidence that if the people should deny, this is what it's going to do. Before I move on, any question or contribution cast so far? Karen, do you have any question or contribution discussed?
I'm having a hard time hearing you. What was the question?
My question is, do you have any contribution or any questions so far?
No, I think that everything has been pretty clear as far as our discussion has gone.
Jessica, are you there? And moving on, this is actually what happened. Just for those of us that can also see it, you can all see it on the page. Now, this is what I'd like to share with you. When Jack called the corporate counsel, he forgot about caller ID. So the lawyer actually used the information he gave her to figure out the people he was talking about. She contacted the Loister EO, who tried things to fresh charges. Things had made up protect ending layoffs. The Costa was asked for evidence, but he didn't have any. Julia found out what was going on, beat up Julia, and forced her to quit. French survived the investigation with only a bruised reputation. He blamed everything on the Costa for calling corporate counsel. There was so much animosity between the Costa left after 3. What was harassment? Did Jack know anything about it? Policies or procedures or training might have improved the situation Jack found himself. Caroline, I hope hearing of the did you on the conclusion of the story? Hello, Jessica.
Sorry, your mic was cutting out a lot during that, so I was trying to find it and read myself what the conclusion actually was on the back in the information from the week.
Oh, okay. So, can you hear me now?
It's a little bit better. It just kind of cuts out every couple of words, so it made it really hard to hear the whole conclusion.
Yeah, apologize. Just because it's raining this evening.
Yeah, it's hard. These connections sometimes just aren't the greatest. Not your fault.
I can share my screen. I have it pulled up if everybody wants me to.
So basically, I also copied it and then I'm pasting it in the, and so we can read about it. But for me, it was so sad. Whenever that happened, I have to leave the company after just because of the buhaha that was. And I didn't understand why Julia's husband need to beat her up. For me, I don't know. I don't know what you ladies, but in fact, that when I read that, I don't know why he did that.
I think the simple answer is just some people are crazy. There isn't a reason for that to have happened. He obviously didn't have trust and confidence in his wife and his relationship with her to believe her and that something was being done to her that she didn't provoke herself, I guess.
Sure. But do you feel, Jessica, do you feel that there were any probably knew he would have known how to go about with the situation that he found himself in?
Sorry, you're asking about Jack specifically, or?
Yeah, Jack specifically. Do you think that there were some policies or some producers that might have helped any of the issue? That's as he leaving the company even after that 3 months.
Yeah, well, I think that the hardest thing for Jack was just that he didn't know the policy, so then he called on it. You know what I mean? And possibly maybe he called and it all happened so quickly and too soon, and that's why all this came to pass. So if the company had, really well defined what happens when when this sort of thing happens, what you're supposed to do and what the procedure is, then maybe some of this, if not all of it, could have been avoided.
Sure. I think they didn't have any protection laws. So Jack didn't really know about most of these things. And just a general question, whose role it is employee to understand policies and procedures, and how often should employees be aware of this?
It's definitely HR's position to make sure that everyone understands what the policies are and that they're in place and how to go about dealing with it. And I think that regular training needs to take place. Maybe they do teach different things at different trainings, but there should constantly be regular trainings and interactions with HR so that people know that they're there and available to them to help them with problems that they may have. And I think that was one of our solutions on our doohickeys with our sexual harassment is that EEOC, I actually did a little bit of research, and they actually have free trainings that they provide to companies.
Oh, that's really cool. Jessica, what did you feel?
Sorry, what? How did I feel about what?
The procedures. Who should, apart from the HR, do you think, or is just the HR who's supposed to do that? And then as and when?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, just as Karen shared with us that it's the HR's responsibility to help all employees to understand policies and procedures.
So who
And
who other than HR who's responsible for?
Yeah, it's asking who is responsible for the procedures, the policies and the procedures regarding sexual harassment in the workplace.
Yeah, well, I think the company needs to have an overall arching procedure. You know what I mean? I think that the company, as part of their HR and as part of their forming of the company, needs to come together with HR and with the lawyers and just come up with a clear cut, policy on HR on what you do, on who's responsible. And then, like I said, there's steps that they could take to be able to make it so it's less likely to happen. They could, like I said, install cameras. They could send out memos about what sexual harassment is and what happens to those, who are accused of sexual harassment, to kind of defer people from doing such things like that. They could also do trainings and different things like that to make it. And then I guess that they could also, I don't know how realistic this is, but they could make it so that one-on-one interactions between any employees are kept to a minimum, instead of like always be like having a small conference room or an office that's off in the corner with closed walls and a door.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. If memos are circulated within to other organizations, it becomes easier for people to understand the clear-cut policies
okay,
regarding
so
sexual
Bartholomew,
harassment.
what's your take on it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What my take is that I think is the HR's duty to be able to make a set kind of a policy together with the company legal counsel, to be able to come up with a clear-cut policies regarding sexual harassment. What is the penalty for somebody who engage in such kind of behavior? If all these things are being stipulated in a policy, it becomes easier for people to follow. And I also do agree that if training, if regular training is being conducted within the organization, because it is something that even when people are being told when they are coming for their employment or on the job training, when they are being told that there is a policy regarding sexual harassment, people might soon forget, and still go back and do the things that they were not supposed to do. So I think a regular training should also be conducted. And I also feel that it is important that they limit the peer contact-to-contact interaction amongst the workers, if possible. Like the close, the doors, the various offices should be organized in such a way that everybody can at least see what is going on in other areas of the office, not necessarily see every detail, but they should be able to have a clear view of what is going on from one place to the other. And if possible, those who have been accused of engaging in sexual harassment, if they have to transfer them to another department, and that can also be one part of the solution to the problem.
That is really well said.
Hello? Just
That's really well said, Bartholomew. I think just yeah. Hear me? Anyone hear me?
You're cutting in and out. I hear you slightly, but I can't hear what you're trying to actually say.
Okay. Basically, what I was trying to say was that so employees understanding policies and procedures, and so with the legal team or the legal department, be able to come about with policies that will help and protect individuals. Because just as the other part said that the bystanders. So, for example, I'm standing by or I'm passing by, and then I see a higher employee trying to sexually harass a lower employee of the company, and because the fear of fire, I want to take either reporting it or something like that. There should be a policy that is protecting me, be able to report that case. What do you think about that?
I absolutely agree with you. When you just gave us I didn't actually look at the outcome of that scenario until just a few minutes ago, and I can't believe that that's the way that whole thing went down. It seems like it was not protecting those that were being harassed or those doing the reporting at all whatsoever, and it should have been handled, I would think, in a much better manner to do more investigation before things were even reported or said out loud to those that were being accused, so that they have more time to get information.
So just to what repeat myself again. I want each and every one of you to share with us the most important thing that you've learned from this case. Just after sharing that, uh, rate the quality of our discussion today 0 to 10, and then any suggestion that you have, what you think we can do better next time.
The most
Karen,
the most important thing I learned from this is that having a good policies in place are very important to the health of a company and to all the employees that work there. As far as discussion goes, I think you did a really good job helping us try to stay as organized as possible. These conversations are so difficult to have over the internet see, because that's what I was just saying. These conversations are difficult to have when the volumes are going, is going in and out. But you did a really good job in facilitating and making it as smooth as possible.
Yeah, so the thing I think I learned from this case is just that just because something's happening and just because somebody's being hurt from it doesn't mean that the legal proceedings is always going to come out the way that it should. And as we can see, I mean, we're on the end that knows the truth, and to our perspective it seems really unfair. And so, like Corey said, I think it's almost vital to have sexual harassment. In fact, I think it's vital to have almost every part of HR, all the stuff that we're learning, clearly defined. That way, everyone knows it, everyone understands it, and you can avoid these situations. The discussion was great. I mean, yeah, the internet thing is really difficult, and the cutting in and out is really difficult, but I think you did I would rate it out of 10 out of 10. And the thing that I think we can do better on is just possibly what might be a good idea is maybe sharing our screen. That way, like if you're the discussion leader, maybe if you share your screen on the questions that you're asking, that way it's possible. So even if the sound is cutting in and out, we're still all on the same page.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. Very good idea. Thank you for that suggestion. And I think we can do that in our next meetings. Bartholomew, what do you think? Hours. I'm not sure Bartholomew is on the line. Marilla, are you there? Oh,
Yes, I'm here.
okay. Share what you've learned from the lesson for this week.
Did I what?
The lesson
Yes. What about the lesson?
from the so far.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said. You're
Jessica, can
breaking
you
up a
help?
lot.
Probably coming from my end is a little bit hard for her to hear.
Hey, can you
Okay.
hear me, Marilla?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so what we're asking you is we want to know what the most important thing you learned from the case, and then after you tell us that, we also need to know how you would rate this discussion out of 10, and if you have any suggestions for better discussions in the future.
Okay. Are we talking about the case that I didn't read about the of the week or the case of the Duhiki? What are we talking about?
The case that we were just discussing on the sexual harassment is the one we want to know about.
Okay. Like I said before, I didn't have time, or I just haven't read any of the material of this week. I only listened to. I think it was Hall's, Robert D. Hall's talk, and it was like I think it was a 30 minute talk. That was the only thing I read or I listened to, and then I didn't read any of the material of this
That's
week.
okay. Bartholomew, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well, loud and clear. Share with us what you've
Okay.
learned
So,
from the case.
so for me, the most important thing that I've learned from this case is that as organizations should be able to have a clear-cut policies about issues concerning sexual harassment, and people who have been harassed, and people who also report some of these cases. The policies should be able to protect those people from in the organization. If we don't have, if we didn't have a good, a healthy environment, it is going to affect the growth of the company as well. So it is important that we have a policy that helps people to um, stay put to whatever they are doing in the workplace. Because if somebody is going through psychological trauma of because of somebody has harassed that person, it becomes very difficult for that person to be able to concentrate on his or her work. So it is important that we have policies that help people to be able to have that vigor when they go to work, to be able to put in their very best the companies. And those, if it is found culpable, those who have also be the perpetrators of some of this art, they need to be punished by the law, so that it will serve as a deterrent to others. And with the class discussion, I think we have done very good today. But I also feel that our reading of the materials has not been actually well. So it becomes, we are not be able to pinpoint from the case the areas that we need to concentrate on as to the policies regarding sexual harassment. So I think our preparation, our coming week, we should be able to do more, get well prepared, so that when we can have a healthy conversation.
Good. Thank you so much, each and every one of you. I know you've done great. I think Karen have been a group leader. I've been a group leader. Just leader before. Yes. 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 Just leader before. Jessica was the first group leader, right? Well, so who's going to be our group leader next week? You are the next person online. So Bartholomew, you are going to be our next group leader. I'll be writing my group leader report. If I have any hard time, I'll contact you so that you can help me out with that. And so with our Dohiki's assignment, let's all do our best and then input few things there. Bartholomew.
Yeah, yeah. I think I have gone through this thing. Right now, this. For me, I don't want to go in there and be doing the assignment because I just wanted to save my internet bandwidth. So I draft some of this. Maybe probably by tomorrow morning, I'll put in those information over there.
Okay, so please, as soon as you finish typing it, as soon as you finish typing what you are typing, we'll be happy so that between today, tomorrow, please post there because Karen working on it, polishing it for us, so that she can have enough time to go through it and then be able to make it ready for us.
Okay.
So that we can all try and put it. All right. Thank you, group members. I really love each and every one.
So do you guys want me to submit the assignment? Is that the plan? This is Corey.
We'll be happy.
Okay, yes. I'm happy to do the final proofread of it and submit it. But yeah, if everyone can finish putting all their input into it as much as possible by maybe the end of Friday, so that over the weekend when I get a chance, I can go through and polish it up. We do need to, one thing I was going to suggest, which I did it in the problem 2, the one, Marilla put some information in problem 2, and I went through and added a lot more stuff, kind of meat to the whole thing. But we also need like reference materials from where you might get information. So I went through and like just would find like quotes that that helped support the statement that I was making, and then I would put the reference to that on at the bottom under the sources. So and that helps make the paper much. Let me just finish. That helps to make the paper much longer that way too, for just inputting stuff from other places. You know, it's quotes that help support our ideas. What was that, Marilla?
Like since like I said, I just been talking to my boss technically, like about this Dahiki problem. So and she was telling me what the steps are and things like that. Can I put the name of her instead? Because I'm not going. I read a little bit on the internet, but most likely all the information I'm getting from it's from her. Because
no, that's
what is specialized and.
You know, that's okay. The information that she just gave you is fine. You don't need to put her as a reference. I just mean there were like some things that we, like I talked about sexual harassment law, and I went, you know, and I Googled certain aspects of it, and I was able to get like a quote, you know, that directly related to, or what the law was, or how the law was written, and I was able to take that and put it in, and then I just had to cite the source at the bottom of where I got that information from. So I just noticed that the sample one had a list of like, I don't know, it had like 15 or 20 sources.
That's true, but I also think it's okay if you want to cite, you know, actual HR managers or people you talk to. There's an MLA way that you can cite references from people too.
Okay. Okay. What do I need to email you, or what do I need to email you by Friday? What is it? Like my finite paper?
No. Just if you want to go onto the paper. So you took all your information that you had done and you put it onto the doohickeys paper, and you did a really good job. I really appreciate you. You put a problem and you had some solutions. So if you want to go back to that paper, like I've expanded, like you had like stated like the solution is like one sentence, and I just took it and made that like supported it more with like who, what, when, where, how, like, you know what I mean, added more information to it. So if you want to go onto the paper and see what other people are inputting and how they're setting it up, and then if you have more input to it is what we're saying. So go in and add to what other people's comments might be. And then before Friday, we want to have the whole paper together. And right now, I think we have like 5 pages or so typed, and it's supposed to be 8. So we're getting there, but we do need to expand upon maybe all of the different sections. And we also need to decide what we think maybe we could do that real quick right now. What we think the biggest problem that we need to focus on immediately is. So right now, our 3 problems that we have are lack of an ill-defined employee benefits, then sexual harassment in the workplace, and then the other one was about the hiring, unfair recruitment and hiring process. So, I mean, maybe since we spent so much time on harassment this week and have a lot of information on that, maybe we put that as the immediate need, just because that's something that can't go, can't be left unhandled. In my mind, that's what I was thinking is maybe the most immediate thing that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah. So with the problems, what I have identified is like on-job training, because people are not being trained on the job, so it becomes a lot easier, difficult for them to be able to navigate through the whole organization. And I've also seen that when you read the case, the job performance review and appraisal is also something that has not been done for a quite long time. And I think the compensation tool and the worker safety tool is not something that is being addressed. So should I zero on those things and write my this thing about it, because I started working on that aspect?
Well, this is the same case that we're going to have over the course of the whole semester. So we have to do this paper 4 times, and we have to find 3 problems each time. So, like, as we go through the semester over the next 3 weeks, we're going to learn new things, new HR issues that will arise in a company. And so the next time we're supposed to write problems, we're supposed to address 3 new problems that we see when we read it. So if you've got a whole new problem with all the solutions, then maybe that's something we can hang on to for our next paper when it applies to what we've learned that week. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. I think it now makes sense. Okay.
So if we kind of stick with the 3 problems.
Just one suggestion. Sorry. So the sexual harassment, I think, is a great thing. The only thing that I worry about is just that that maybe there's just the one instance and there's not a lot of meat to it. It's just a quick couple sentences in the case. Whereas possibly just an alternative just to think about is the ill-defined benefits. The thing, when I say benefits, I'm talking about like the low pay and all the stuff that goes along with it. And the factory workers have been discussing forming a union. And so I also think that might be something that we need to quickly address as well. And I feel like that has a lot more aspects to it as defined in the case.
I am totally fine with it if we want to pick that as I mean, I don't think there's a right or a wrong to what we decide is going to be our final, thing that needs to be addressed immediately. And if you feel like there's a lot of information to back that, I don't know what everyone else's opinion is, but I mean, it just needs to be basically it just needs to be the last paragraph, or I guess the closing part of the paper needs to be, here's the big issue that we see, and here's how we plan to like address it and deal with it going forward. So if you have a lot of information to like to stand by that, then I think that would be, like you said, it has a lot more to it, because it would be harder to probably make a whole nother, conclusion with just that one individual case.
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay, I think we can also chat through, like we have been, like, I mean, maybe we should keep our Google Hangouts chat available just for people who have questions. I know I tend to turn mine off, but over the next couple of days, I'll leave it open so we can communicate a little bit better about this paper and what's going into it. Does that seem like it works?
Yeah, mine's always open.
Sure. Oh, that's okay. It works for me as well.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you and bye-bye. Have a nice day, all of you.
Okay. Take care.
Okay. Karen?
Yes? Hello?
So when I stopped, and what happened?
I'm sorry, what was that?
If I stop the broadcast, it will automatically download on the YouTube channel, right?
Yes. And then you need to go, then you have to go into the YouTube channel and it'll give you like the URL, like, you know what I mean? And then you just need to go into, if you go into this week's, like if you click on this week for the class content, and then at the top, there's a, it goes across and says content, discussions, quizzes. If you click on discussions, there'll be a discussion board for this week that says, I think it says like group meetings or something like that.
Okay.
So you just need to find what week is this? Lesson 4? Is it lesson 5 this week? Lesson 5.
5.
But you know what I'm looking at? In lesson 5, there isn't a place for weekly group meeting video in lesson 5.
I think he can go through what it says leader, the one who was the leader this week. I think he can
the assignment.
He can put it in there.
Oh yeah, I think she change it? I don't. If you can't find it in lesson 5, I would just say, because if you click on lesson 4, someone posted their lesson 5 group meeting in there also. So at least just get it posted, and then you can send her an email saying, "Hey, I put our lesson 5 group meeting in lesson 4 because there wasn't a place to post it." I'm sure she'll be fine with that.
Okay, but then the place that said that leader assignment. The leader assignment. What do I do?
Oh, with your assignment, so if you go into lesson 5, if you go and you open up what your assignment is, I don't know what your assignment is because I haven't opened it. So there's the discussion leader assignment instructions. So you have to open it up, and whatever the assignment is, mine was like a paper. I had to like write a 1-page paper.
Okay.
So this basically says create a sexual harassment policy. So you're supposed to just like, so last week I had to create whatever it was, whatever policy we talked about last time. So you have to like kind of create a policy. So you just need to do basically like just write up what, if you were an HR manager, what you would say. So, the policy is that if you ever have, like kind of all the stuff we discussed, if you run into a situation in which you see or hear of sexual harassment, that needs to be reported. If you're being sexually harassed, that needs to be reported. And this is how we are going to deal with, you know what I mean? If someone reports it, this is the steps that we're going to go through in order to deal with the situation. So you kind of just have to make it up. What you can do, which I also did, is you can like Google sexual harassment policies and just see if you can come up with other companies' like formats, so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like.
I'll do exactly.
Because I think I kind of did that, and my husband was like, "Oh, I have I have whatever." I didn't remember what mine was. Discrimination policies. He's like, "Oh, I've worked at companies that have those. Like, I can look that up for you and give you a copy of it." So if you've ever worked at a company that has a sexual harassment policy, you might be able to get that as well, and use that as a use it as a template to how you're going to set your own up.
Exactly. I'll do exactly that. Thank you so much for.
All right. Good luck with it. I mean, mine was maybe a page. I didn't worry too terribly much about it. I don't know how hard she's grading it because she hasn't gotten back to me yet. But I didn't spend more than a couple of hours putting it together at most. You know what I mean? I just kind of did the best I could with the information we discussed.
No.
Okay.
All right. So our next group leader is Bartholomew. And so Bartholomew will look forward to learning from you next week.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a good week.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.